Okay, welcome to this section 25, Karen Armstrong, A-level anthology analysis of her chapter on the Buddhist Enlightenment. Let's read it and then we can analyze it. The text emphasizes the fantastic shuddering of the earth as Gautama circled the Bodhi tree to remind us not to read this story literally. This is not a physical location. The world tree, standing at the axis of the cosmos, is a common feature of salvation mythology. It is the place where the divine energies pour into the world and where humanity encounters the absolute and becomes more fully itself. We need only recall the cross of Jesus, which according to Christian legend stood on the same spot as the tree of the knowledge of good and evil in the Garden of Eden. But in Buddhist myth, Gautama the man sits in this pivotal place, not a man-god, because human beings must save themselves without supernatural aid. The texts make it clear that Gautama had come to this axis of the universe, the mythological center that holds the whole universe together. So, what is the purpose of Armstrong's deconstruction of classical ideas of the Buddha? The text emphasized the fantastic shuddering of the earth as Gautama circled the Bodhi tree to remind us not to read this story literally. So she's reminding us to remind us not to read the text literally, and this is a sort of mystification of the narrative, quoting very late sources, 5th century sources. The text, what text? The text is this very late 5th century text. She's deconstructing classical ideas of the Buddha, not, it seems, to get back to some historical Buddha, but so she can sell us her version of the Buddha. Does Armstrong's commentary then just betray her pluralist approach to comparative religions? So what does she say? This is not a physical location, the world tree standing the axis of the cosmos. It's a common feature of salvation mythology. It is the place where the divine energies pour into the world, where humanity encounters the absolute, becomes more fully itself. The language here of her commentary betrays her pluralist approach to comparative religions. Whether other religions may have anything to Christianity and vice versa, the Buddhism may not even see itself as a religion apart from anything. So how to compare Buddhism with other religions if it doesn't see itself as a religion? So linking to Christian myth and Buddhist myth, what does she say here? She talks of salvation mythology. It's a typical sort of mythicism. She's looking for parallels to draw, but this approach has long been criticized. She's going to relate the tree of the knowledge of good and evil in the Garden of Eden and the cross of Jesus and the Bodhi tree as all part of this notion of a world tree that stands at the axis of the cosmos. What she's doing here, trees are a pretty significant thing wherever you live. Of course they are. So that just could be common, unrelated myths, as it were. Uh, she's trying to make some Jungian, it seems to me, collective unconscious link. Archetypes of trees seems a bit of a stretch, unless you're into some sort of Lord of the Rings and Treebeard and all of that sort of stuff. Armstrong's account of the two trees a case of parallelomania, trying to link causally unconnected narratives. So, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil in the Garden of Eden, and the Buddhist myth, where Gautama sits under this pivotal place, not a man god, because human beings must save themselves without supernatural aid. So what is she doing? She's clearly quoting what she knows. She's an expert in Christian legend. She's a former nun, after all. We need to only recall. Well, who can only just recall it? Well, only people who already know it. Not everybody in the East knows the Christian story, but she knows it well. And she knows it very well as a former nun. So is Armstrong's mythical mashup of the Augustinian idea of the fall, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil in the Garden of Eden, redemption, notions of redemption in Christianity related to Jesus and the cross of Jesus as Christian ideas of salvation, and Buddhist soteriology. Gautama the man sits in a pivotal spot, not a man god, because human beings must save themselves without supernatural aid. Well, only Theravada would say that in terms of Buddhist soteriology. Is it justified, or is this just syncretistically confused nonsense? Clearly, she's quoting the Christ myth, if you want to call it that, or at least her understanding of Christianity, which is a very liberal reading, but applying it to Buddhism. This is an inventive application, and mythicists are nothing if not inventive in how they can find the sources of myths, connections, no matter how spurious. In Christianity, Jesus is described as the God-man, hence not a man god. Let's give it green. Not a man god. But not all Buddhists agree we must save ourselves, as we must save themselves. Only Theravada. Mahayana believe in merit transference. And the bodhisattvas like Avalokitesvara, and especially in Pure Land Buddhism, pray to Amitabha, put your faith in him, chant Nembutsu all day long, and he'll take you to the Pure Land. He'll give you, when you get there, he'll give you a merit to get there, and enlightenment when you're there. So lastly, is Armstrong right? And the texts make clear big history and Jungian thinking. The texts make clear that Gautama had come to the axis of the universe, the mythological center. There's your Jungian stuff that holds the whole cosmos together. Armstrong is pushing Armstrong's teaching, her dharma of big history and meaning making via Jungian archetypes and mystical experiences that can be best accessed by generic religious practice. So yes, she's pushing big history and Jung with a few, as the essence of Buddhism, with a few Buddhist words on top. Essence and identity statements being mixed up here. The essence is less Buddhism and more modern's psychology, depth psychology ideas. So this was section 25.